Alright folks, hello and welcome back to Downstage Gaming. I'm your host Josh, and this is part 30 of our Let's Play of Head as Code. When we last left off, let's see, Ray caught us snooping around, and so we went on a little adventure with Ray. We went to the pantry, where we found, well, Ray had a pickle, that's really the most important thing. And then we found the little case where A has presumably got a gun. There were two guns, which means A either has two or E also has one. So that's something to consider. We then sort of left Ray to go to the library without telling him. And then we snuck along over here to the stars. So, stepped out of the train and ran to the stars. It went away shortly, as it was a station that had already been solved before. I stepped into the lobby. Quickly, I went upstairs. Ooh. I can see why this room might have been a little hard for the twins to solve. just at a first glance. Perhaps something would have helped me here. Wait, what's that beeping? Uh-oh. It was my oh, whoa. Were two people already here? Is someone here? Huh? What? You fool! You've doomed us three! Who's the other? Why did you not call from the staircase? Now my plans won't come to fruition. Crap. In my hurry to search this place, I hadn't considered that possibility. And that was A. He was armed, or at the very least I wouldn't have to waste that weapon. No, instead we get a much better end. In the ambient darkness, I saw 3 red dots illuminating the area a little. I hadn't seen who the third person was clearly. I hadn't expected anyone to be here to begin with. Now I was paying the price for my recklessness. The price of unending darkness as my severed head's neck cooked upon the floor. Alright, well, if I knew it was going to end that quickly, I probably would have just finished this off last time, but... Rush bad end. Alright, endless circle. We know. Let's go for our ride. Whee! I'm trying to think who the other person could be. There's pretty much no way it's one of the twins. There's a decent chance that it's E. There's a decent chance that it's Jasmine. It has to be probably either E or Jasmine. Would be Mike. Now wait a minute. Where did the H go? Oh, dead? Does this always happen and I've never noticed this? I need to go back now and see if this always happens at a bad end or something. Alright, well, back to the old charty chart here. Okay, so we have an unlock here. I'm not actually sure which choice is going to lead us to the unlock. I'd prefer to get the other bad end. Presumably it is a bad end first. But, I guess we'll find out. Alright, so we'll be going back to our choice of what to do with the Ray situation. Our choice will be to go to the library alone or to the stores alone. So the interesting thing about the library, I think, this is just my guess, and this might be what the lock was about, if I'm remembering correctly. There's that ending where we go to the library with Marco and hide a gun in the trash can. And if my theory about how all of this system works, that it's all one thing happening over and over again, but in like a chronological way, there's a decent chance that that gun is in that trash can and we find it when we go there. If we go to the stars alone, we would almost certainly probably beat A and whoever went with A to the stars. We might find out more about that situation. Let's go to the library first. Alright, head to the pantry and I'll go to the library, the room J and M explored. Sounds good? Then we'll meet at the bedroom once we're done. Meeting at the bedroom. Before I could elaborate further, the doors closed. Ray didn't look like he wanted to follow the plan I suggested, but since I waited that long and the doors had closed, he wouldn't have any choice. Well, yeah, because Ray's a rule follower, if anything. He's the kind of person to listen to what other people plan out for him. This played right into my hand to avoid him going to the library, since I took it. Brocane Station, Bibliothèque. I sat onto one of the seats, knowing full well I'd rise very shortly anyway. Didn't take too long for the train to get there. Since we took the train first, nobody would be here either, allowing me to have full reign over the findings in this place. Didn't have a lot of time, but I still took great care in ensuring I wouldn't leave anything up to chance. Alright. For the moment, I'm going to leave the trash can for last, because I think that might be the thing here. Took a glance up the stairs. Was there anything worthwhile to search there? The clock's open. I can see there's a safe behind. Quickly, I went to check it, but it was empty. No sandwiches. Darn. Whatever contents it had, Jasmine and Marco had them now, in their stomachs. My search wasn't so fruitful there, so I took it elsewhere. Please be quiet. I'm alone, so I definitely won't make any noise. There's no one to talk to. The hypocrisy of talking to myself didn't dawn on me. Good stuff. Nothing in there. The counter was actually completely empty. Normally, I'd have expected some kind of file cabinet hidden underneath, but the rows were just deserted of anything of interest. The counter countered my attempt to search it. As they all do. Vital components to our survival. But they don't contain anything of note. They're just random plants. I tried touching them with my hand and succeeded, but upon doing so, I realized they were fake plants. They felt like plastic. Smiley, why can't you give me anything? Too many books, couldn't search them all. All of them look fairly old, too. As I blew air onto a row, dust kicked up and I coughed, backing away. There was also a small study space back there, but nothing of real interest. A book had been left open, but it had no writing. All it had was an open and empty container in the middle of its pages, sitting comfortably in a cutout rectangle. I didn't have my ATM card with me, so I couldn't take my money out. Wait, these weren't ATMs. There were computers to browse the library's contents. Sadly enough, they weren't turned on, so I could not have made use of them. These computers suck anyway. They look extra old. Probably haven't seen use in years. This wasn't the time to sit down. But I am tired. No! I wouldn't sit down when I was in a hurry. I wouldn't change my mind even if some mystical force tried to make it happen. The stakes were too high. Oh, they almost always have given me a third one to make him give in. Alright, the bin was empty. When I grabbed it and tried to move it, I realized it was stuck to the ground, bolted there. No point in touching that again then. Or is there? For some reason, something compelled me to check this bin again. Even though I already looked inside and I failed to move it, I felt like I hadn't given it my all. With great effort, I pushed onto the bin hard enough to make it scrape against the ground a little. It moved. Applying even further pressure, I forced it to slowly rotate onto the large bolt holding it down, revealing a small compartment at the base of the bin. Inside that compartment was a gun. Okay. So at this point, it's basically confirmed, right? It's gotta be that this isn't multiple timelines. We're in one timeline in which this game is being played over and over again with clones or robots or something. I think that pretty much has to be confirmed at this point. What? What is this doing here? I asked myself aloud like an idiot, hardly able to contain my surprise. Had Jasmine and Marco found guns here? No, there was no way that was the case. If they had, then they hadn't taken them because this one was still here, wasn't it? But it was possible they found 3 guns. But if they did, maybe they took the guns together. So it made sense for them to hide the 3rd. Wait. Why wouldn't they carry it and give it to me for my own protection then? Because they don't love me? Do they not care? Are they better friends with each other than they are with me? Oh no, no. This was definitely not good. I picked it up and examined it from up close. Strangely, this gun was remarkably old. It looked completely worn out. Now that's interesting. Because I don't remember any comment about the gun looking remarkably old when we got it during that timeline. Meaning, maybe this gun being put under this trash can wasn't like 7 cycles ago, but like 700? I was questioning its very ability to function, in fact. I tried to remove the safety since I knew guns had that, but even with it off, the gun didn't work. All I could do was make it click in vain. I did enjoy clicking it. I clicked it a few times, trying to make it shoot. No dice. Never did. Even worse, that piece of shit actually jammed up on me. How do we open this damn thing? After messing with it for a minute, I figured out how to open it. I looked at the chambers. Empty. This isn't good. It's a firearm, but it's completely worn out. Is it rust? Not that I could tell. And how? At that moment, my head suffered a splitting headache. What? I was in the library, but I was here. I'd been here before. I remembered. When? How? Was it before? Was it after? I was panicking as I pulled the bin to the side. I dropped the gun and closed the space again. When did this happen? Would I stuff the gun back in there later? Or was this... I didn't understand any of this, and I screamed as my headache grew tenfold worse before I finally came back to reality. Ah! What is this? Was that a vision of the many worlds interpretation? Did a me from another world put that gun there? How would that even work? I know this is crazy talk, but how do I explain this? That thing has to do with multiple timelines. What if I just saw myself from another one putting the gun there? Then how the hell could it have been here in this timeline? Hey, what are you going on about up there? I went to the bedroom, but you weren't there. Now I hear you having an existential crisis. Ray called for me from the hallway outside. I quickly stuffed the gun I found in my jacket and rose up, unwilling to let him see I had something wild in my hands. Nothing. Definitely not rusty gun. I was just angry at the fact I found nothing at all. I replied to him, but he kept moving, closing in on my location. Well, I came by here to warn you. Uh-oh. Did he already know? Did he know I had a bit of a firearm, even if it was malfunctioning? In the pantry, I found a case, and I opened it. The room was explored by the blind girl and that old fart, right? Yeah, it was by them. In the case, there used to be 2 guns. They were already taken out when I got them. What? 2 guns? Yeah. You better be careful around them both now, or else you'll end up with a bullet in your head. He made the movement at his head, mocking the firing of a gun with a noise. I'm going to continue looking into the others. The stars is next. Do you want to come with? I really wanted to stay away from the guns, but Jasmine was also there. She was in the company of those 2 dangerous participants. I think I did enough exploring. I'll fetch Jay and go into a new room. Suit yourself. What's the matter? Weren't you on board with exploring further earlier? Times change. Now I'm a lot more interested to see what everyone found in their rooms. You said your friends didn't find anything here, right? Yeah. As far as I could tell, the place was empty. I boldly lied. I didn't know he would catch on. Since he didn't look like the observant type, I didn't think he would have noticed the fact I was squeezing my hands so hard in my pockets that my knuckles were turning white. I would say Ray is not the unobservant type. Alright. Hopefully you're not covering for them, because if you are... He cracked his knuckles. I shook my head to confirm I wasn't, even if I was. Be seeing you. Or not. He disappeared out of the room. Releasing my breath after I was sure he was gone, I took a moment to think about what I would do. Okay, well, I can't trust anyone. we're in a good place. Can't trust A&E because they are definitely armed. I can't trust Ray because of that video. Can't trust the twins for the same reason. Can't trust Jasmine and Marco because they both left this stuff here. They possibly have guns too. What am I going to do? Okay. Let's think about this logically, Simon. Maybe Jasmine and Marco won't shoot you, but A&E might. So I need to make sure they won't be able to. Easiest way is to rob them of their guns, but how? Suddenly, after asking myself that, I came to a sudden realization. I thought of a way to perhaps make use of this gun, even if it was useless in its current state. It was flimsy, it was hinging on a bit of luck, but it was a plan, nonetheless. I left the room and took the train back to the lounge. I slipped in the lounge after making sure there was no one there. I didn't know who would be around the bar, but judging by the voices I heard from afar, 3 of them were still around. Jasmine, A, and E. Yeah, so, I mean, A has to have gone with either E or Jasmine last time to the stars. Interesting that they didn't go this time. The twins had vacated the area. Perfect enough. Would have been even better if Jasmine hadn't been there, but I couldn't pick every detail of this battle. I spent a moment to go over it again in my head. First, I was going to hold E hostage. Oh, that is the wrong choice, my friend. My friend, that is the wrong choice. A doesn't give a crap. I was going to slip in, nonchalant, until I could get close to her. I had the gun ready in my pocket. It was broken, of course, but from far enough, I didn't think anyone would notice the difference. With her hostage, I'd have the old man spill the beans on everything they'd been doing behind our backs. Then, there was the possibility A would be Smiley, in which case I would probably just lose. He might not have minded me offing E if he was, which meant my hostage would be worthless. Yes? I shook my head. It was hinging on chance, but just this once, I decided to be a gambling man. Well, you're gonna lose. Hey, S. You're back. Are you ready to head out? Yeah, I'm ready to head out. Just a sec. I just have to pull this gun out. Have to what? I readied myself, about to leap to grab E, but all eyes on me, I couldn't manage to get to her. At Jasmine's insistence, I didn't have time to answer or change my plan. Fuck! It was time to improvise. I drew the gun out and aimed its barrel straight at A. This is a much better plan. S? Young man? He slowly lifted his arms up in the air, understanding he was at a disadvantage. At least, things were going okay so far. I couldn't wipe the sweat off my brow, so I endured it. No one move, or I shoot. I want some answers. Did you and E both take a gun from the pantry today? Alright, fine, I'll talk. No one has to get shot today. Yes, I have taken a gun for my own protection, but E did not take anything out. When we opened the briefcase containing them, there was only one gun, which I took. I'm willing to believe that. It's a weird thing to lie about at this point. I mean, I guess he could have two, and this is his way of keeping one on him. But I'm more inclined to believe that that's true, which would suggest what happened to the other one. Because he never has shown a second gun in the past. Like, in that very first timeline, we take the gun from him. And he doesn't then have a second one, I don't think. Liar. There were 2 empty spots. I am many things, but not a liar, young man. When we opened the briefcase, yes, there were 2 slots, but one was already empty. He was growing angrier by the moment. I thought I could use this to my advantage in this battle of wits. Okay, fine. Jasmine, take the gun from his bag and send it over. Eh? But... do it! I almost aimed the gun at her, but that would have been a mistake. I kept it trained onto A the whole time. Since the safety was off, he didn't try anything funny. I had to keep the bluff going for as long as I needed it. I didn't know when he'd realize I didn't have any bullets. Following my barking, Jasmine reached in the man's bag to look for the gun. Please, leave everything else in there, though. Don't touch my bombs. I need all of this stuff. I am but an old man. Yeah, that's a lot of bullshit for someone who's in a firing range right now. He clammed up, and finally, Jasmine took out the functional gun. Then she put it on the ground and slid it over at my demand. I slowly lowered myself into a squat, still holding the gun at A the whole time. I picked up his gun and immediately opened it to look at the bullets. All the chambers were full. I closed the gun again. All of this was keeping my hands busy. I didn't like it because it was opening me up for a counterattack, but it had to be done. As soon as my gun moved away from him, the man shifted with a grace I hadn't thought possible for one as old as him. Everything happened so fast following that moment. Thinking he was moving to get me, I backed away. However, he wasn't going for me. Instead, he was going for Jasmine. While I didn't want him to hurt her, my mind made up a last-second plan. In his moment of inattention, I switched the guns in my hands without looking at them. I had to bring as little attention to what I was doing as possible. Jasmine's noise brought me back to what the old man was doing. He was holding her hostage with a knife at her neck. He looked at me triumphantly, raising a finger to give me orders to follow. Slide my gun back over, unless you want to lose your friend. I am a man of my word, and I will tell you that I don't plan on faltering at the last second. Yeah, this has definitely gone well for us in past similar situations. If the knife moves, it'll move the whole way. I did as requested. I leaned down and reached for the gun. Of course, he knew I could have just shot him, but I didn't trust my aim. He probably would have still cut Jasmine's throat. Or worse, I probably would shoot Jasmine by mistake. For all my focus, I was still nervous, and I'd never shot a gun before. Slowly, I set it to the ground and slid it over, while that asshole wore a victorious smirk. Sadly for him, the gun I slid to him was mine, not his. His gun was still in my hand. All my hopes rested on the fact that he wouldn't notice. As I rose, he let go of Jasmine to grab the gun from the floor. Immediately, Jasmine backed away, putting several meters between the two of them. Don't do anything rash, now. Wait! Wait, don't shoot! Jasmine interjected herself to no avail. The old man chuckled. Yes, he still thought he had the upper hand. It would have been a mistake to show my victory yet, so I patiently waited. It's over, Jay. One of us will die today, and if this dies, I cannot guarantee your survival either. The old man took a pause once we both aimed at each other with our respective guns. He hesitated, but in the end, I saw his glare narrow. He was squinting to aim. That was fine, of course. His gun clicked and jammed just like it had for me earlier. Oh, sorry. I must have mixed the guns up by mistake. By mistake? This was entirely premeditated, young man. I kept my aim on him at all times until I pointed upwards instead of firing away to make sure he knew the gun worked. Jasmine screamed in panic at the sudden noise. See? This one works, unfortunately. Or fortunately. Now stop and don't try anything. Jasmine, you still have your bag, right? Yes. Do you really have to... Fuck the nicknames at this point. I'm tired of them and they never did anything productive. Slide it over to me. This tension, it has to drop. Everyone, please. I don't want others to get involved too. And E has no idea what is happening either. I looked at everyone's state of affairs. A was glaring at me, but he seemed to have given up for the time being. Jasmine was, of course, panicking. E was impassive as usual over there in the corner. One more plan. I needed one more plan. If I dragged E into it, perhaps things would change. I couldn't do it by myself, though. Okay. If you aren't going to slide it over and take out a paper and write... Okay, if you aren't going to slide it over, then take out a paper and write what I'm about to tell you. But, quick! She recoiled as I barked at her, and she grabbed a sheet of paper and brought the pens out on the counter. As I instructed her, she wrote in the paper, and then gave E the sheet. Alright, that's enough now. What is your... But E interrupted him by panicking, just like Jasmine had done before. Okay, I'll talk. I think I know it, yes. Please, don't shoot anyone. We can all make it out, so please... Closing the distance, I grabbed her shoulder and pulled her to the lounge. She stabilized before too much time had passed. Jasmine took a step forward, but I still didn't fully trust her either. I couldn't forget the doubts I had lingering over her and Marco. Can't I at least listen to what she has to say too? A remained silent, apparently attentive too. If he was interested in what E had to say, perhaps he was not in fact smiley, or maybe he was just interested in my plan. I nodded at Jasmine's request. Do I talk now? I tapped E's hand as if telling her to. Okay, so you want to know how to leave. I've been thinking about it, and I think I know how. You know how we have numbers on our collars, right? And to leave, we have to find an extra person to help, right? Well, what if... And I'm pretty sure the extra person is just another person in our group. The number 1 collar would pair with the number 8 collar, and then we have the number 9 together. Chalk another one up for old Joshy. Got another one right. I made this exact prediction earlier. The number 2 and 7, 3 and 6, and 4 and 5 can all pair up to form the number 9 too, which means that everyone could go. I took a moment to remember my number. Right, it was 2. I pushed my thumb onto the back of E's collar, making her shiver in apprehension. Her collar showed the number 7. She's got 7, and I have 2. So I think this is where I go. Jasmine, send me the bag. She obeyed and slid it on the ground as I reached for E's hand and tugged her over. What? Is it time to go? Please, don't shoot anybody. I quickly picked up the bag Jasmine had sent to me. The preparations to leave the room had taken a while, but before too much time had passed, I was off. And no one moved. If I hear footsteps, I'll come and shoot anyway. Wait until I'm gone, and then you can go. I looked at Jasmine, then A. And if you're still stuck here, I'll come with the police. If you can, it would be great. if you get time in your busy schedule. She still held the hopes I would come to help her. Of course, I wanted to, but there was this part of me that still couldn't trust her the way I'd done before. Swiftly, I left with E, pulling her along. On the way out, I stuffed the revolver back in my jacket. I went down the staircase, and I met with the twins. Oh, hi. The others are waiting for you upstairs, so don't make them wait too long. They ran past me, decided to ignore the fact I was dragging the disabled girl alongside me. I slipped out in the lobby and found the train still there. Quickly, I took it for a destination unknown, E in tow. I took the first one the train stopped at, the pantry. How ironic that I was going to leave at the station that asshole and this potential maniac had explored. This potential maniac E? E has done nothing, Simon. Speaking of, I was still tugging her along. Not for much longer, though. When my adrenaline died off, I was in front of the scanners. Where are we going? Please, tell me. If not that, tell me something, anything. I ignored her for now. Perhaps that was cold in me, but I couldn't brush off the fact she had accompanied A this whole time, kept her thoughts to herself, and even probably conspired with the old man. I couldn't trust her, but she had to be with me if what she said was true. I took a deep breath. Then we stepped through the scanners. And then nothing happened. There was no beeping. There was no cutting our heads off. The door slid closed behind us, but other than that, nothing. We were home free. Assuming the elevator I could see at the end of the bend was our way out, I released E's hand. Right now, she was a ball and chain keeping me anchored here. She would get in the way. If it was truly safe to go up, I'd bring her and deliver her to the authorities, where they would decide her fate. Are we outside? Where are we? Please, let me know. She dropped to sit against the wall in the relative darkness after my refusal to talk to her. Instead, I made my way to the elevator. We were on floor -15, apparently. I pushed the button labeled with a 0. It moved up. I realized while the elevator was moving, my friends would be staying here too, until I found a way to get them out there. And then I'd have to clear up this little misconception between us. After a long time, the elevator stopped at what I presumed was floor 0, which was above ground, perhaps. As the doors opened, I smelled fresh air. It was coming up from a staircase. I quickly ascended. Bright light was pouring out onto my face. Was this outside? It was blinding me. The sight of the outside world was blinding me. I heard things, too. I heard water. I heard the seagulls. Everything was so peaceful. As I stepped out of the building I'd been in, I realized it wasn't a building. It was just a bunch of ruins. The staircase had given way to a deserted island covered with rubble here and there. Yes! I made it out! We're out! It's so calm here. Woohoo! I was outside. It was over. There's a lot to talk about here, but I will wait for a second. Finally, I'd left the terrible place. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling that this place was horribly wrong. In my search, I found no civilization. There was no Montreal. I could walk a few meters to reach the beach or the rubble-filled station, but there was no one there either. I walked in one direction for a while. A solid 5 minutes of walking confirmed what I thought. This island was deserted. As I thought about the fact I was on a deserted island, a thought flashed in my head. Something about the letter I. The thought was something about the letter I and how it took the second spot. So it is the letter I. Okay, we'll talk about this in a second too, but let's finish this. The second letter was I for some reason. I didn't know what it meant. After everything I'd gone through, I chalked it up to momentary insanity. When I came back to the elevator, I saw that E had somehow felt her way up to it and used it from the hallway I'd left her in before. I was lucky, because When I tried to use it again, it didn't work. I was stranded on this island, just like my friends were stranded in the subway below us. So maybe you can only use it once. And that's the reason why when Jasmine, Hannah, and G took it, we were saying we couldn't use it again. And why the time we get there with E, we can't use it to get to 0. Maybe somebody had already gone up? I don't know who that would be in that time, but I forget. This is a little strange, but I suppose I can work with this. Many days passed. We kept the collars, they weren't going off, and we couldn't remove them. One day, I woke up, and E's headset and her faceplate were gone, but we kept the collars on, always. I didn't know what happened during our sleep, but everything was fine here now. After a few days of reacquainting ourselves, she told me that she never conspired with A, that his name was Agnos, and that she had been wary of him a lot. None of it mattered, of course. We decided to settle here and survive on our own. It wasn't so bad. Despite it not being how I'd chosen to leave the island, if I was given the choice, it was still good enough. He was cute. That's really all that matters. Never saw my friends again. They might have escaped too, but I didn't know. If this place had multiple exits, were they on an island too somewhere? A part of me wanted to go explore and see if that was the case, but another part of me had fallen back into my usual cowardice. I refrained and instead chose to live a happy life here with E. Was it a dream? Was it a nightmare? If it had been a nightmare, this part was now a dream. Perhaps it was a dream made by a butterfly who dreamed it had happened, dreamed it had been kidnapped as Simon. Together, we were stranded on an island, and yet, instead of a future spent in darkness, our lives were illuminated with the brightest light. Okay, I just got an achievement called Everything is Possible now. I think because we've unlocked our last lock here. Interesting. Okay, so the immediate thing to think about here is the contradiction of us getting on this peaceful island this time versus us leaving the theater and seeing the, like, ruined Montreal, like, city, right? So the initial thing that popped into my head was, if my theory about this whole thing is right about how it's going in cycles, maybe there's a huge time difference between that escape and this escape, and that's resulting in the weird difference between what's outside. But there seemed to be a suggestion there by Simon at the end that perhaps leaving at different places leads you to different exits that each go to a different place. I don't know how that would be possible, especially with what we know about the layout of how things work. But I don't see any other way that it's possible for that, how to reconcile that contradiction other than those two. Either time has passed, or those are actually two different exits. Alright, the other thing that I was thinking about, and that I sort of made note of there, is, if you remember the last time we'd finished a good ending, I noticed that it seemed like the word that we're spelling for this secret room was going to be smiley. We had the M, the L, the E, and we had a Y. And I thought we were probably going to get S, and it was just like, oh, but you don't need the I because it's a 5-letter thing. But instead we got the I. We got M-I-L-E-Y. And then I'm thinking, like, well, that's kind of weird. Where's the S, right? Or the S. Right? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, but we're the S. I don't know. Alright, what time are we looking at? I'm very tempted to just come in here and do this bad end. I assume it's a bad end. But no, we should pause it here for now. So when we return next time then, we will get this, what I presume is a bad end real quick, and then we will be on our way to what I presume is the true ending. I mean, we got two left, so this one and then that one. I'm very curious to see where this is all going. So join me for what is probably not going to be the conclusion next time, but maybe the time after that. We'll see. Until then, this has been Downstage Gaming. I have been your host, Josh, and I will catch you all next time.